welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Buntle, and yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. Before I get into the video, give this a like, comment, please do share so that others can watch, and don't forget to subscribe. But yeah, let me just dive straight into the video. So as you saw in the title, I'm going to be talking about my endometriosis story. I can only share my own experiences, and I just hope it helps someone. So what is endometriosis, first of all, right? So what it is it's a painful condition where bits of tissue that occur on the uterine lining, the endometrium, doctors, you'll have to forgive me, okay, it occurs outside of it, right, outside of the uterus. And it's said to be an entire body disease. Sometimes it doesn't just spread to small parts near the bowel or whatever. It could spread to different organs as well. So that really causes a lot of pain, right? And it's said that according to statistics, 200 million people worldwide suffer from endometriosis. Okay, the stats also would say 1 in 10 women, but because we're very inclusive on this channel, we accept everybody. It's not just women, right? So some people don't identify as women. However, we'll just say from here on, menstruators, or we'll just say people, all right? 1 in 10 people, or 200 million people experience endometriosis, right, worldwide. And I honestly think that there's more than that, because it's such a common thing, but because it's so overlooked, right? I don't think people really get their diagnosis. So there are different ways to get a diagnosis. You can have an MRI, a pelvic exam, an ultrasound, and a laparoscopy. With a laparoscopy, you can probably get the most accurate diagnosis of endometriosis, right? But I'm not really going to dive into the procedure and that sort of thing. I'm just going to get into my own experience. So when I was 11, I started my period, and since then it's just been one roller coaster. So I remember experiences where I was in a lot of pain. I would bleed sometimes for 19 days. My period would be 22 days, 30 days, or I would be on my period for 2 weeks, get a break for a couple of days, and then bleed for another 2 weeks, and it was so irregular and so painful at the same time. But I thought this was normal. I thought everybody went through that, So I saw it with my mom, because she was also diagnosed with endometriosis, and she had multiple surgeries. She was in bed a lot. It wasn't fun to see, but I kind of suspected that I may have it, because all my symptoms were showing stuff like endo, and there are so many similar conditions that look like endometriosis, so but we'll get into it another time. So anyway, I had these painful irregular periods, and then one time I remember I was in high school and I was taking a nap, and I just woke up in pain. Didn't know what it was, and then I had to be rushed to the hospital. I honestly thought I was gonna die that day. I was in so much pain. It was so unexplainable. And I got to the hospital. The doctors were testing and checking and whatever. They couldn't see anything. And I was like, wow, this is wild. I'm in pain. There's something wrong, right? But they were like, nope, nothing. And then, I happened to have an amazing doctor, Dr. Bolotov, and he is the one who actually, I think, basically saved my life. But not about him today. So that was one incident. And then another incident, when I was living overseas, I just started bleeding. Sorry for the details, but it was just like water just like gushing out, and I was just like, what is going on? Went to the hospital, and they checked, and they were just like, yeah, it's just some hemorrhage, and and I was just like, what? This is not it. This is not normal, surely. And then I had gone to see a doctor the one time, and he had scheduled me for myomectomy, which I cannot wait to tell you about. But I never ended up doing it. There was just so many different incidents where I'm just like, but does everybody go through this when they have their period and stuff like that? And I remember being like so young, and already doctors would sort of make me question like my fertility and just like the state of my womb, and I was just like, but I'm so young. But and I was like, no, but God will make a way, right? So anyway, that was sort of like just a brief overview of like my experience. So then in 2019, I think I was just very also just depressed, and I felt that I think my emotional mental state was starting to manifest itself physically, so my entire body was just in pain, besides the painful periods, the irregular bleeding, right? But then there was something that was just, it was just too much when it came to my period. I would be in bed for 8-9 hours just not moving, not able to move, right? I'd be taking so many painkillers a day, where I was just like, this cannot be healthy. And it was painkillers here, it was changing diet there, it was just all these things. But yeah, so in 2019, probably for about a period of 5 weeks or so, I was just home, not well, and my whole body felt like it was just giving up. And I was also just tired. It's tired to like fight, to be active, because you have to try to get up and try to be active, try to get some air, sun, whatever, because you'll feel better and stuff, but nothing happened. And then I went to go see a gynae, and then she is the one who gave me my diagnosis. So I mentioned earlier that you can only get like a true accurate diagnosis with a laparoscopy. However, I must say, so that I can encourage more people to actually get checked, if maybe you don't want to have anything invasive, or it's maybe not as urgent, okay? You can get a diagnosis, and I truly believe so, because they can do the pelvic exam, ultrasound. You may not see the presence or how damaged your organs are, but you have to advocate for yourself and say, look, as a doctor, you need to look up some of these symptoms, because sometimes it literally takes between 7 to 10 years to get a diagnosis for endometriosis. And I just think that if we're advocating for ourselves, we're able to get a diagnosis. So you have to see some of the symptoms and that sort of thing. So I got mine with an ultrasound, and my mom had it. All my symptoms were showing this, and I just want to say that someone else's experience, if you maybe got your diagnosis through a laparoscopy, anyone who got it a different way, that doesn't make your experience invalid, okay? So I have to say that, right? I did also mention other conditions look like endometriosis. So again, for all the doctors, please don't come at me or anything like that. I'm just sharing my own experience and the fact that I want to encourage people to try and get a diagnosis, and for more practitioners to give the diagnosis, right? And look into endometriosis, right? So eventually, in November 2019, I got diagnosed with endometriosis, and this is basically where this whole healing journey began. And when I did, I was recommended a few treatments, and one of them was a contraceptive. But I'm gonna tell you another time how, you know, I've basically just my experience with contraceptives, right? I'll dive into it another time. And then when I really thought, you know, I should really try to make a change, my whole entire body, I wanted healing so bad, and I didn't want to feel pain anymore, you know, because it's not nice to be like crying every day, or not being able to have like necessarily like a social life necessarily, because you almost come up with excuses to be like, oh no, I'm doing something, but you're just like, no, it's actually I'm in pain, I don't feel okay enough, you know. So it's really like also affected my mental health even more. You know what I mean? Because it's like you can't keep a job. I had to withdraw after enrolling again, you know, into my studies, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm getting so much older, I don't need to be doing this. But more than anything, I just decided that I'm gonna put my health first, right? And that's what happened for 2020. And to get a diagnosis just before the pandemic, I was like, wow. Funny enough, the timing was just like, this really right now, you know, this is gonna happen. But I just think that all things work together, you know, for our good. And it helped me to really focus on my own health. You know, I decided to try some homeopathic remedies, as I mentioned. Dr. Bolotov, he's the plug, he will save your life. Okay. And I started that journey, and I did see, you know, some changes, but obviously it's up to me to be consistent. Now the trick is, what people don't get is that it's so difficult to be consistent, because it's also the mind and it's the actual physical body. Like getting up is a task, you know, and you can tell me to go take a walk, but I need to be able to get up from my bed, to move, to stand upright, because I'm in pain, right? And I need people to understand that I'm not exaggerating the pain. Please, if you know someone with endometriosis, just ask them, so like, what's the pain like? I can't even think of a way to describe the pain, right? I remember one time I was in Checkers, and this the funny thing is that it happens whether you're on your period or you're not on your period, because there's things like an endo flare, and that's, you know, it's almost like a bloating that's so painful and so uncomfortable. And yeah, so I'm in this Checkers buying groceries. I have the trolley, and this is probably 2 days or so after I've finished my period. I'm in an aisle, and I have to slow down because this sharp pain just like comes just out of nowhere. And I'm leaning over in the Checkers aisle, in an aisle of like brooms or something. I don't even need brooms, like at the time that I was shopping, you know. And I'm just leaning over, just like, hey, you know, to anyone that walks past me. But I'm in pain. I'm literally, it comes anytime, anywhere. It's wild. It's not fun. I don't wish it on anyone else. So, you know, that's basically what would happen any time of the day, wherever. It doesn't matter. Sometimes the period will be like, I'm here today. So literally in a month, I would get maybe 4 or 5 days free of nothing, no pain, no bleeding. The other times it's spotting, it's irregular bleeding, it's bloating, it's back pain, you know. So that's probably another thing I should probably get into, you know, some of the symptoms. It's painful periods, it's issues with your bowel, your bladder, painful sex, it's nausea, vomiting, infertility, you know, sometimes multiple miscarriages, you know. And you could find that it's all because of endometriosis, right? So You know, I'm also anemic, so you know, you find yourself extremely tired and weak, just low energy levels, you know, so you find yourself having to take all these supplements, all these painkillers, just so many things, you know what I mean? It's not a condition that is great. I am on this journey to help someone get to a place, in fact myself included, where we're pain-free. You know, pain is not normal. If you feel you have any of these symptoms, please check it out. Please see a doctor, you know, because there's also other things that are linked: PCOS, adenomyosis, so many different things which I really hope to get into on this channel. But in terms of my story, you know, it's been hard. I don't enjoy pain. I don't think anyone does, to be honest, but it's really been hard, and I just hope that the healing will continue for me to a point where I can say that, like, I have no pain anymore. You know, unfortunately I still do sometimes, but I've taken so many measures to try and conquer the pain, and it's also up here, your mind. You need to be strong, you know, and it's not easy being strong when you're also having other issues, you know what I mean? So I just want to encourage anyone, you know, not to give up if you know you have endometriosis. If you don't, and it's maybe the first time you're hearing of this, or you've maybe suspected, check it out. Tell the doctor, hey, could it be endometriosis, you know? And you have to really advocate for yourself. And I hope that more of us could get a diagnosis, you know. So I'm just kind of gonna leave it there for my story today, and I definitely will get into other things another time. So, you know, if you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like and share it, and please leave a comment for me, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye.